Okay. Who brought the dog in?
I don't know. Should we use the dead cat?
My God, I'm stunning. Huh? Is it difficult to work with me when I'm just so stunningly beautiful?
It is increasingly difficult because I just want to jump your bones. Oh, are these running?
Okay, let's do it. You're listening to Conversations in Bed with me, Joleene DeRosier.
And me, Ken Case.
This is the freshest, funnest, most fantastical podcast out there that supports healthy, polarized relationships that takes place right in our bed. Don't go anywhere. We're about to give you the goods on love, life, and leaning into truly powerful relationships right now. Welcome to Conversations in Bed. As always, so happy that you have turned us on. I am Joleene DeRosier.
And I'm Ken Case.
And I was going to throw something in there, but I couldn't think fast enough, so I didn't. But welcome back. Welcome back. We're always glad to have you here. You've tuned into the podcast where you're following us in real time as we travel this journey of masculine, feminine energies to create the very best relationship that we've ever had and to share our knowledge with others on why this makes such a big difference and why these aren't, quote, labels.
Yep, exactly. And now we're working our way through summer, getting into the fall. And yeah, it's been a good time. It's been learning experiences. And I think we're going to talk about some of those challenges that we may have had in the beginning and then how we've matured through them as we've moved along.
Yeah. So language.
Language.
The language and why it makes a difference in a conversation before a potential conflict. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into how I can speak for myself, how my responses in my past life where I shot from the hip, I was triggered, I was reactive, and how that certainly didn't help my relationships. If anything, it sank the ship even more. And how in our journey, we've learned how language choices make a difference. And we're going to share some of those with those listening today.
Yep. Cool. It's going to be good.
First, what's in your mug, my baby?
In my mug, we have Burke's Beans.
Yeah.
Again, from Concord, California. Not only known for wine in California, and beaches, Muscle Beaches, but our inaugural sponsor,
yes.
Burke's Beans. Yes, thank you so much for making it through, for staying with us, and we appreciate it so much.
Truly, Greg, truly. And you can visit the website, which is right here. And it's also in show notes. So if you're listening to the audio and you can't see my finger moving back and forth on the screen, to purchase, these mugs Greg gave to us, and these are the best mugs for travel. They do keep it hot. But
they sure do.
I love an independent bean. I never thought I'd put those two words together, but we have had so much fun having different experiences with different coffees. But Greg has been a longtime sponsor, and we're grateful for that.
Absolutely.
And our T-shirts are from Rachel Oatman Day, who is a follower on TikTok. She heard our plea when we were asking for sponsors, so we could put different phrases on our T-shirts. Sometimes we wear them blank, and sometimes they have a phrase. But we are so grateful for Rachel for donating those.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we'd like to throw questions out.
Yeah, throw a question in.
I got one for you, my baby.
Oh, dear, here we go.
What is the hardest thing you've ever done physically?
It's kind of funny, and this is not really that hard for people. We were talking about with your training for the try. Congratulations on completing that, by the way.
Thank you.
Training for that. So I talked about I ran several years ago, and I was never a runner. I was always a sprinter, never a runner. And there was one time after building up a little endurance, right, doing the old couch to 5K, thinking I had it all. It's like, how far can I run? And there was one night when just went out and just ran and just said, I am just going to try and see, and did a little bit more than 8 miles. And I got to tell you, never in my life would I have ever thought that I could run 8 miles.
That's awesome.
That's why they make cars, right? Yeah. So probably physically, I think I took myself to that 8. Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty impressive. Mine was giving birth. Right?
Yeah.
And she was a C-section too, so I know that there's a vast difference between the pain and the the physicality of it, but you still have to do things physically to produce that child. But the second is training for the sprint triathlons. And that was a 6-month period where 4 days a week I was biking and swimming and running, and we would brick them. So I trained with someone else, brick meaning we would take 2 and put them together, abbreviate them, like maybe bike 10 miles and run 2. I did many races in between that, a couple of mud runs with obstacle courses, trail races, an uphill race. They called it Lucifer's Crossing. There were stairs and everything. Learned a lot and probably had the best summer of my life and have been in the best shape. But physically, I pushed myself. And that's what I wanted to do, was to see how much I can endure physically. And I really began to enjoy it. Like,
you did.
I didn't hate it. I still don't.
Yeah. And it was so impressive to watch you go through that journey of doing it, and your determination and your stick-to-itiveness.
My stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you. Yeah.
just pretty amazing stuff.
I'm not done, so prepare. Next summer is race season again, so I'll probably be doing a lot more. I was super inspired by my friend Danny, who trained with me. She was a bodybuilder. She's a trainer. I take her strength training classes. She had done triathlons before me, and I had always wanted to do one. And I said, I want to do one. And she said, I'll train with you. And boy, did she. And if it wasn't for her, my physical, I know I couldn't have reached the physical level and had that kind of ability if it wasn't for her. So, yeah. Thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. It was impressive all the way around.
That's awesome. All right. You ready to dive in?
I am ready. Let's go.
What do we got? We're talking about different responses and statements that we use when we have to have a discussion that might be heavy or icky or uncomfortable that diffuse situations. And this language is important because I'll just speak for myself. In my past life and past relationships, I did not respond well. I didn't respond favorably. I shot from the hip. I was mouthy. I was bitchy. I was, responsive. So I would listen to respond instead of listening to understand.
Yeah.
Which is what I think you and I do today.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as we've learned about these responses and statements, and there are some canned things out there that people talk about, but I think we've kind of discovered them on our own because everybody is different. The challenge with this whole thing, and I was just thinking about this while you were talking, the learning that we did and that we're doing still, when these creep up, they're usually on the heels of a trigger that's been set off. So already you're in you or I is already in a triggered state. And then we have to learn how to navigate that triggered state to bring us back to a point where we realize this is not the past. This is not the other people. This is us. Take a deep breath, regroup for a second or a minute, and then gently walk into the conversation. And it is, people, I can't begin to tell you the work and restraint that it takes. Seriously, because the easy...
Because you want to rip my limbs off at the arms.
The easy response is to walk away. Like we would have done in the past. It's all that we talked before we met each other. We were alone, but we were happy. We thought we were happy. We were in a great place. We were moving to where we wanted to be, but we were safe because it was just us.
Right.
Now we've injected that partner into the relationship, and so we have to learn how to maneuver. And it is a two-way street, and you both have to work at it. And we have done the work. There are times, when we've had these conversations where at the end of it or the next morning when we've kind of, there's been a little period of cooling off or whatever you want to call it, but we've come to a point where we realized where it could have gone, but we took it to where it went, and we say we need to be proud of ourselves
Absolutely.
that we did that. So,
And then share it. Share it. What did you just say? It's easier to walk away. It's safe.
it's safe.
So this is why so many women, and I was one of them, swore that I would either remain single, or if I were coupled again, that person would be in their space and I would be in mine. And we are slowly integrating to share a space together. So even in the beginning of our relationship, when there was something that I was uncertain of or didn't know how to handle, what did I do? I said, you got to go.
Yeah.
And and I think if that continued, that would be a problem, because I wasn't quite sure how to handle it, but I knew I didn't want to handle it the way I used to, which was loud and angry and just like spewing rage and hate. There is no exaggeration, my friends, when I tell you I had intense rage in me. So when there would be an action or something you said would trigger me, my brain, and I am mature enough in where I am with the healing, where I understand this is Ken. This is not another person. We've spoken around this. I know where this is going, and I'm able to regroup. I would say I think you are, thank God, a little better at it than me, and maybe I shouldn't say that, but you are, where if I'm triggered and you know it, you find the strength to maintain us both, which speaks to your masculine in a huge way.
So just that literally popping into my head. It's the collective. It's somebody up there. While you were saying that, so maybe it seems easier for me because for you, your response was to lash out, right? And that would have been your normal response back then.
Which was my
Wounded masculine. Yep. For me, my response, what would it have been? My wounded feminine, right? Would have been to cower down and just to people please. When we needed, in the very beginning, when we needed to be alone, that needed to happen. And that was smart, because what would I have done? I would have come in and said, let me fix it. Let me help. And I would not have given you, I would not have given you grace, and I wouldn't have given you the space to just think about it, because I needed to learn all that. It's like she's not looking for a response. She's not looking for a fix. Yet that was what I wanted to do. So that would, quite honestly, piss you off even more, right? So that was very important. So getting back to my thought with, it may seem easier for me because my response would have been to just clam up or people please. It's easier for me to to take a little deep breath and then to try and bring you down, because that's where I was, and to talk. And
do you know what that does for anyone listening? That masculine energy, your choice to say, I have a solution, is essentially what you're saying, even if you don't use those words, immediately puts me in my feminine and I soften. Where in the past, being in my wounded masculine, the wounded masculine does that. They respond. They're aggressive. They're angry. By you standing in that space and being the pillar, essentially, so I don't have to be, we've always said it's energetic. I instantly back down and allow you to lead.
Yeah. And it was hard to get there. There's no doubt, and to get there, it's hard to do. I mean, I'm still getting there, right? It's always a work in progress, and it always will be a work in progress. But you get better at it, right? And you start to see it. So yeah, and as that happens, I can see you soften and go down into your feminine, and then I can step up, and I feel more comfortable leading and giving a little direction. This is what I think, or let's talk about this.
Let's share an example. Okay. So let's share the example of there was a situation where we're trying something different financially with a joint venture. And I saw you take an action that we didn't agree to. So let's just spell out what it is we made a joint decision to literally put money in an envelope saving for something.
Yep.
And we decided that a chunk of money that was coming toward us was going to go in that envelope. And you came in and you said, this chunk of money is different, and I'm only going to put part of it in the envelope. And I immediately became triggered.
Yeah.
Because my mind is black and white. And my mind remembered, you said, let's just throw numbers out there. You said it was going to be $200. You said it was going to be $400, and that it was going to go directly on that envelope. And now you're telling me half is going to go in the envelope and half is going to go over here. I got mad. I became triggered.
Yeah.
And you saw it physically first.
Yep.
I did try to keep my voice from getting edgy. I don't know that I was super successful. What I said, even though there was edge in it, maybe I didn't even say it, but I felt slighted. So the choices that we're learning to make is, instead of me saying, Ken, you said all 400 was going to go in the envelope, the better choice would have been, I feel confused. I feel confused. We discussed something else. Can we talk about what's different? That would have been the ideal response.
Yep.
Instead, I said, I don't think that's what we talked about. Still, you managed to keep everything from escalating by maintaining your patience with me.
Yep.
But do you feel the difference, for those of you listening, instead of me saying, this isn't what we talked about, this isn't the same, is more accusatory, and you can sense my anger, as opposed to a softer approach with, I feel confused. Why do you feel confused, Joleene? I feel confused because we talked about something different, and this doesn't align with that original conversation.
Yep. Yeah. And so that incidents, when that happened, it was, we're bringing change back to the bank, right? You know,
that's right.
Everybody saves their change, right? Well, I had this coffee can full of change. It's like, well, you know, we have this. I'm gonna bring this in. We'll cash in. We'll put it in the envelope, because we were saving. You know, we're putting that envelope aside to keep some cash in, right? I had no idea that it was going to be as much as it was, right? And we had talked about before a budget that we had going, and there was a little bit of a deficit in the budget. So this ended up being probably 3 times what I thought it was going to be, right, in the can. And I was excited. I came in and, oh, baby, look what we got. And so I came in and I was going to put some money back in the envelope, and then come in, because I walked in and I remember saying, you're not going to believe how much was in that coffee can, right? And then we put it in, and I immediately felt it when that took place.
Because you said what? So that it's clear, you said, I'm going to put part in the envelope and part in the bank.
Yep.
And I didn't know there was an overage.
Right. And keep part of it in the account. But you had already, I know that what I said was this and what I did was that, without explaining it, right? And then I came over and we sat down and we talked about it, and you were triggered. I knew that you were triggered, and I knew why you were triggered. And so that I'm trying to formulate, let's talk about this and how we're going to talk about this. And then after we got to the bottom of it, we both agreed that, okay, that makes sense. But I did not say
Splitting it made sense.
Yeah, but I did not say why. And I told you, I said after we were done, and after we had discussed it, I thought about it, and I said, what I should have done was I should have come in first before walking over to the envelope and saying, I'm only putting part of it in here. I should have come and sat down with you and said, hey, let's talk about this, and I have an idea. There was a lot more money than I thought there was going to be in that can. Why don't we take some of this and put it in the envelope, and we'll take the other half to cover the overage that we knew we had? I think that will appease both sides. And you probably would have thought about it. And at the end of the day, we both agreed, yeah, that does make sense. But I could have diffused the entire situation by coming to you first and saying, just letting you know what my thought was. And hey, what do you think about this? So
This episode is made possible thanks to Burke's Beans, a gourmet coffee roaster out of Concord, California. Organic and sustainable coffee beans made your way. Visit burksbeans.com to place your order. Also, special thanks to Rachel Oatman Day for the t-shirts we wear. We're so grateful for your support. If you'd like to sponsor Conversations in Bed, drop us an email at Joleene@takeyourvoiceback.com. The email address is in show notes. Now back to the goods.
Offering clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, there's no wrongdoing with any of this. It just goes to show you're learning that my thinking is very black and white.
Yeah.
But it also goes to this. The masculine energy acts. And the masculine energy said, when we get this money, it's going in this envelope.
Mhm.
My feminine brain allowed it. And also the black and white part of me was expecting the money just to go in the envelope. And what happened is that action felt, what's the term I use? I felt like I was being slighted
yeah,
or cheated.
disrespected.
Disrespected because the original action and conversation was not what was unfolding. And the old version of me with past experiences would take that as disrespect, as you said A, now you're doing B.
Mhm.
Why? Without explanation. So that was a really crucial moment for us because we both experienced in that moment. I went immediately into my controlling, wounded masculine,
Mhm.
and you into your wounded feminine. And there we were looking at each other going, oh shit, now what?
Mhm.
But at that point in our relationship, we were in a space where we knew how to come back to it. And that is when I was able to regroup myself and say to you, I feel conflicted. I feel confused.
Mhm.
Because the conversation was this. And what that does is it alleviates any accusatory statements like, the you said, and you lied.
Mhm.
It removes the personal element of it, which is super important because in conflict, without clarity, you can't really come to a conclusion without all the facts, and some facts were missing. Having open conversations around statements and language that works leverages the playing field. And once that playing field was leveraged, you were able to put me back in a safe space because if listeners haven't figured out already, money is a wound for me.
Mhm.
You know, it's for both of us.
As it is for 90, I mean,
90,000%.
how many couples are out there? That is always, a bone of contention, or can be, if you're not on board with it. And coming from the two places where we came from, yeah, we absolutely had to get together. And I opened up about a lot after that, and there was a new understanding, and you did too. And then we met, and now it's us. It was,
Can I just say though, you're making it sound so basic. It was such an intimate moment for us.
Yeah.
Because we became so vulnerable about our past wounds that the result was, I'm pretty sure I fell more and more in love with you because you were vulnerable and you were real. There was no spew, there was no hate. And that's because we keep making these choices to try to remain as calm as possible, to not be as accusatory, to remember we're coming from different pain points and different pasts, and every reaction we have is tied to the past.
Mm-hmm.
And then remembering that we're present, because we were in your home, in your kitchen, and you shared why you have this money wound, and were so beautifully vulnerable that I fell 18,975 times more in love with you.
Yeah, it was very difficult to talk about, but as I've said in the past, you make it so easy to talk and be vulnerable, and so that's why I could talk about it and bring it up, and it would. You're spot on, non-accusatory. You listened. It was just a freeing moment. And boy, and moving forward, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Freeing is a good word. That's healing.
Yeah.
When a couple can accept that, you're released from the burden of wanting to hold on to that fight or hold on to that belief and and to trust the other person.
Can I ask you a quick question? So you had mentioned I feel. I know that I feel statements are a mechanism that people talk about, but I mean I was confused. I wasn't really sure I knew exactly what those meant or what that meant. What can you just explain I feel statements?
Yeah. Yeah. So there is the self, who you are and who I am. And then there's parts of us. And different parts of us are having different experiences based on childhood wounds, based on all of these things. So when I become angry, it's not me, it's a part of me based on a past wound. It's a part. So when I say I feel, I'm taking away the burden of all entirety, all of me being angry, and letting you know that I am not angry because of you and that you did not cause an issue. It's an emotion. So I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated is less intrusive, less evasive, less aggressive. I think it's a softer way to say there's a piece of me that is struggling, and I would love to share that with you and reach a solution. And you, as the masculine man, receive that better, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. That helps.
Okay.
That helps.
Good.
Yep.
Yep. And also part of the language too is when we're in a polarized relationship, which is what we have, you and your masculine, me and my feminine, there are moments where I need you to lead. And instead of me just coming out and again being aggressive and saying, I need you to lead in this situation, I don't want to be in control. And I used to say that to my ex-husband all the time. I don't want to be in control. And he's like, I think you do. And he had every right to say that because I really seemed like I did, but I didn't. At that time, I didn't know what this dynamic was. I didn't know how to switch out of it or to move away from it. So by using I feel statements, or even in a situation where I want you to lead, for example, I will say to you, can I suggest something? And then you're open to that and you say, yeah. So for example, if you say, and we always use dinner as the example, I'm going to take you out to dinner tonight. Let's go to that Italian restaurant on the boulevard. I would gently put my hand on your leg and say, can I suggest something? And when I do that, you're open to it because I'm not down your throat saying that's not what I want. I'm gently saying, may I? And you're like, of course, baby. And then I say, we just had Italian for lunch. How about some Thai food? And you say, oh man, that sounds beautiful.
Yep.
And we're on the same page.
Yeah, and it's not. It's received because I made the suggestion first. I had a plan, right, which would have played out, but you came in with a suggestion. I still led by opening the door to this is what, and I have no problem pivoting and no problem making a change because it was still me leading.
Yes.
Leading that. And then ultimately, what do we want as men? What is our reward? And again, the reward's not the right word, but what is why we're here? It's seeing you in your feminine and seeing you happy, and then you get giddy, and then you get playful, and it's everything we want. And you see us as strong and masculine, and that's the polarization, right? That's the polarization there. The two sides.
When
the magnets attract. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you.
No, it's okay. The yin and the yang. You're absolutely right. Well, we get excited. We tend to talk over each other because we just want to keep sharing. When someone wants their man, their partner, to ask them out on a date, because I love being surprised by dates. One of the greatest ways you can ask them, or instead of saying, I wish you'd ask me out now and again, or I wish you'd take me to dinner, is when you choose to be in that very soft space, it's going to shift energetically. I'm telling you right now, whether you're watching me right now or hearing me, when you soften in that space, energetically, it's like magic. He will shift too. He may not know what's going on. And if you were to say to him, I feel so amazing when you surprised me with dinner. I can't wait till you do it again. What a different feeling that is, other than, why the don't you take me out to dinner?
Yeah.
Which was old me. You know, it's because here, that was me wanting to be in control. When I'm in control, I felt safe. A lot of people will defend their desire to stay single and to stay in control because they feel safe. And they're tired. And they're tired of trying to force an outcome or force their partner to make decisions. And so what happens is they get stuck in this hamster wheel of anger and frustration and control. You would be amazed at the number of women, I can only speak for this aspect, that say, no, I don't want a man. And I get it. I get it. I've been there. I said the same exact thing. I don't want it. I don't want the burden. I don't want the trouble. I don't want to pick up their clothes. I don't want to keep nagging and all of that. But the reason that dynamic was happening is because I chose to try to force out the outcomes and be in control. And it had to be my way because it was the wounded parts of me. But when I was at home alone before I met you healing, I thought I had it licked.
Yeah, me too.
Then I met you.
Yeah.
And then the real challenges came, but that was the beauty, is I had the practice, I had the coaching through it. You talk about someone doing their homework. You know, and we still are right now, even as we speak, we're still doing our homework and living this out loud and sharing it so people can benefit. Listen, my friends, if you had told me 5 years ago there was this masculine, feminine polarity, I would have told you exactly where to go. It made zero sense to me. So all we ask is that you entertain it. I would never share anything that I thought was not worth someone's time. It's all part of the healing process, and in my opinion, brings us back to our natural state.
Yeah, I had no clue about it. You are actually the one that introduced me to it, not knowing you were introducing me to it. Though I was doing the work, though I was, going through the whole process of being better and learning about all those self-healing things, I didn't know the terminology. I didn't know what it was until, coming upon you. And then that's really where I started to get it. And then I started to look more into it, and then it started to make sense. And I was like, I'm really, this is interesting. There's something to this. And and then we ended up, as the universe does,
Making out?
Yeah. The big plan all along was us to be together right from the time we were born.
Oh boy, I believe it.
And all of a sudden that one day on, September 17th, when we just happened to cross paths on purpose, because, that's when it all began. That's when the in-person part of it began. We'd been working on the rest of it all our lives.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So.
And that's why we want to share this gift.
Absolutely.
I have a question as we wrap up for you.
Yeah.
So obviously there are going to be some men who hear this and interpret it as there's another man cowering to his woman and doing exactly what she wants. Oh, this is really all about what she wants. What about what I want? Blah, 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 blah. How do you address that?
So it's not just doing what you want and just cowering to what you're doing and sitting back. That's the wounded feminine, quite honestly, is sitting back and it's like whatever she wants, as long as mama's happy, we're all happy. That's the thought process, right? And that is not it at all, because I'm telling you, that is not what she wants. And you're just going to live that life of, you're never going to get beyond the part where you truly experience the polarity, you truly experience the intimacy. I was just going to say that. The intimacy, and intimacy is more than physical intimacy, right? Intimacy is so much more than that. That certainly is part of it, but just talking, just us sitting and talking, or sitting in silence, quite honestly, is intimacy. So it's not just it's not just doing what she says. It's leading down that road, leading the relationship together because I'm telling you, when it happens, and when you sit in your feminine, it is so amazing. and that just brings out more masculine, healing masculine. And it just, it puts a man where a man wants to be, with that feeling, and you're not feeling like you're walking on eggshells, and you're not feeling like you're always doing just what she says and, I have to check with her. No, there's not going to be that. So it's just opening up and being vulnerable and being willing to, take the journey, being willing to experiment and do things. So I know that's really an answer to that, but it's just give it a chance. Give it a chance and see if you like the way it feels. Because, I'm telling you, there's anybody that doesn't like this feeling, they're looking as they're wounded.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it.
I think it's a great container is the word to drop yourself into and have a little self-discovery of why you respond the way you do, whether you're the man or the woman, the wounded part being the hurt. Why do you respond the way you do? Why do you take it out on your partner the way you do? And we're speaking from experience. Or why do you hold back and not respond at all? What would happen if none of that existed? Or if it came up, to know how to douse it by having these kinds of conversations, by changing the language. And I know some people out there are like, well, I can do it, but he won't. You could never force me. I could never force you. You can't force your partner into this. But I will tell you, when you decide to make the change to be softer and to allow, when you decide to explore more of that feminine, your partner will go willingly or they won't. But in the end, the gift is who you become. Because a lot of people say, well, what if I lose my partner? I'm going to say this very carefully. What if you were meant to? And I'm not saying you cut everybody off, but what if that partner, and you'll know this to be true if you're hearing me, and you don't have to say it out loud to anybody else, but you'll know if it was supposed to be all the same. I was married for 11 years and I knew it year 4. And it was, I stayed in it. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of people stay in it. And this is not, the words that are coming out of my mouth just merely means take a closer look, because whatever you change within you, your partner is willing or they aren't. And that's really what this is all about. They're willing or they're not. You get to decide. And whatever unfolds after that is truly what was meant to be. If I had stayed in my marriage, my life would be awful. Mm-hmm. And that's not because of him. He's a wonderful man. And we get along very well. He's a lovely, lovely human, and I genuinely mean that. But together, it was a volcano. Mm-hmm. And how does that serve me, him, or anyone around me? As a matter of fact, when I was in that marriage, after I got out of it, I lost weight. I was healthier. You know what people said? Are you sick? Mm-hmm. I was healthier because I was thinner. In my marriage, I was a little chunkier because I was eating my feelings and doing all of those things. It's just interesting how people look at that and think differently, because usually you have the divorce 15? What is it? What's that, the freshman 15? Like you either gain weight or lose weight. You probably
tie it to anything. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. But a lot of people will...
Any change, right? Any emotional change.
Yes. But in the end, I think my whole point is, as I wrap it up, taking entirely too long, when you make the decision, everything will fall into place just as it's supposed to.
Yeah. You had a great point. Either it will be right and either we'll come together, or it may be at that point where it has served its purpose and it's time to move on. And then you can go back. You have to look at all the stuff and really dive into it, and you can go back podcast and listen. But then what do you accept? And what are you willing to put up with and that type of stuff. So to be healthy, you have to get to that place. And
I've never been happier or healthier, and I wouldn't have any of this. And I'm talking all of the life in general, all of the discoveries, all of the perspectives, an incredible partner, if I hadn't been brave enough to do what was right, to make the decision for both of us. Mm-hmm. Truly.
Yep. Yeah.
Good talk.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you next time when you join us for Conversations in Bed.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, baby.
Bye-bye.